call this meeting to order. We call the roll, please.
Absolutely. Good evening, directors. I will begin with Director Gould. However, I do not see him on. I just want to make sure, not seeing him on our virtual link. So moving to Director Orzawi.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
You're present. We're calling roll.
I apologize. You're calling roll.
Yes.
Yes.
But I'm here.
Great. Director Wood.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Sheets. Present. Jones.
Here.
Kelly.
Here.
White.
Here.
President Sailors, turning it over to you.
Thank you very much. Now we will do the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Tonight, the next item on the agenda is the Metro Cable announcement. The open session meeting is videotaped for cablecast on Metro Cable 14, replayed on Sunday, June 26th at 2 p.m. and Monday, June 27th at 6 p.m. on Channel 14, webcast at metro14live.saccounty.net. We now have the public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within district jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
We do have one speaker tonight. We have Assistant Chief Law with us.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Assistant Chief Law. How are you tonight?
I'm nervous, honestly. Good evening, directors, Chief Harms, executive staff. Tonight I wanted to come to you and I've just prepared some thoughts because this is going to be very difficult for me. So bear with me as I try and just read through this letter to the board regarding my pending retirement. I'm writing this letter today to inform the board of directors of my decision to retire from the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District effective August 1st, 2022. This was an extremely difficult decision for me to make and one that brings me a great deal of pain as it is not what I had planned at this juncture in my career. I notified the district of my intention to retire on June 10th, 2022, with the intent to provide sufficient notice to develop transition plans to ensure the ongoing success of both CRRD and the EMS division, given the short timeline for my departure. Since the fire chief announced my reassignment without explanation to any of the members of the district, people have filled in the void with rumor and speculation that is detrimental to my reputation. And so tonight, I want my voice to be heard by the directors, the people that I've worked alongside for the last 28 and a half years, and the community that I swore to protect when I came here. For those of you that may not be aware of the situation, on May 9th, I was notified by Chief Harms and Chief Mitchell that a change in leadership was being made and that I was being transferred to the position of fire marshal. The conversation was brief and without warning, and it was clear the decision was not open for discussion. I was informed that this move was a great opportunity for me to round out my resume, and Chief Harms expressed confidence that I would thank him later for this decision. To be clear, I found the manner in which this sudden change was addressed to be extremely insulting and dismissive of the significant contributions that I have made to the agency and the community in my career, and a clear indication that I am not valued or respected by the fire chief as a professional or as a peer or as a person. I did not apply for the position of fire marshal, although it was recruited for by the district. Upon reflection and a lot of soul searching in the last few weeks, I cannot in good conscience take an opportunity away from the people that wanted the position, that applied for the position, and have spent their career thoughtfully preparing for the top job in fire prevention. While I appreciate the purported confidence in my leadership skills and ability to learn a new role, I feel this position is far too important to our community to entrust to someone whose entire career was spent in operations, not in code enforcement and fire investigation. Nor do I think it's appropriate to expect the women and men that work in CRRD to train the fire marshal. It is simply demoralizing to have to train your own boss and diminishes the level of skill and accomplishment achieved by the members that have chosen community risk reduction as a career path. Once again, I feel that we've closed the door to opportunity to reach the highest level of leadership in community risk reduction for the people that started out and came up through there. Further, I feel that the lack of consultation on both the current activities and future projects that are coming up for the EMS division has led to a transition that can only be described as non-existent at this point. Chief Mitchell announced the transition plan to the assistant chiefs via a text message and never consulted the people involved about our schedules. As a result, Chief Regnicki and I have had nearly no time together to review the voluminous body of work in the EMS division and the things that are facing us in the very near future and into next year. Member and team are words that are used repeatedly at Metro Fire, but they have no meaning when they're unsupported by action. The manner in which these moves were made was disruptive and disrespectful to all of us involved. I choose to give myself the opportunity to work for a leader of leaders, and it's evident that isn't going to happen for me if I remain at Metro Fire. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for braving tonight and stepping forward and giving us your heartfelt exit interview. Thank you. Do anybody on the board have any questions or comments that they would like to ask Assistant Chief Barbie Law?
I don't have a question, but I do appreciate your service. I think that you've been a valuable leader in this organization, and you have spearlined our EMS division, and it doesn't go without notice. And I appreciate your thoughts.
Anyone else like to make a comment? Go ahead.
Yes. Similarly, while I can't address any of the issues concerned, I do want you to know how much we appreciate what you've done for this district. Your service is well known, and you've made a huge contribution. Thank you.
Anyone else like to make a comment?
I'll chip in,
Go
Madam
ahead.
President. Thank you, Chief Law. I'd like to acknowledge to my peers, staff, and the public that's watching. Chief Barbie Law has done a tremendous contribution to develop, implement, and maintain a professional level of organization for Metro Fire, and particularly at the EMS level. That has become more and more over the years. It has become more and more critical for emergency service delivery to our community. And it has been excellent. And that is due in very large part. It's in large part to everyone who hops on the rig and goes and responds. That doesn't happen without leadership within that division. And I've been very proud of Chief Law's work in the EMS division. Nothing but kudos over the time that I've been here at Metro. It's always been exemplary, your work. Thank you very much.
I too would like to basically say the same thing that Director Jones just said. Your work has always been exemplary, professional, and the fact that you've done 3 jobs while you were doing 1 when you were managing the EMS system. I'm very sorry to see you go. I'm very sorry to see that you've made the decision to retire, but I understand if you're not comfortable working in the system. Do any other directors have any
Yes.
comments? Go ahead.
I also want to thank Chief Law for her years of service. And I'm also sorry to see that you have to go out in this manner. It really pains me to listen to what you just said. So thank you very much.
And I just want to remind you, you can always pull your papers It's not final until the day you cash that first check. You got 30 days. So please keep that in mind. We would love to take you back. Okay. No one out there in Zoom land wants to say anything? I see no hands. Okay. Thank you for your years of service, Barbie. Moving on to the next item, we have the consent item. Do I have any questions, or I'll take a motion in a second?
Madam Chair, I'll move consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Director Gould, I'm showing as absent. Director Orzali,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Sheets,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
and Sailors.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item, action items. Number 1, retirement of capital assets. Chief Financial Officer Dave O'Toole.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Chief Harms. This action item pertains to deletions to our capital inventory, which in accordance with our capital asset policy, the board must approve when the original value of the items exceeds $5,000. There are 55 items on this list, and we now seek to remove them from the inventory, mainly through e-waste disposal, recycling, and repurposing of usable parts. District staff normally perform a biannual inventory of all capital assets, where finance staff go out every station and work with the management to locate and record the condition of every capital asset. When they last did this in 2021, they had inventoried 1,538 items, and of that 1,538, 50 items were deemed obsolete, which is broken or beyond useful life and needed to be retired, and 5 items were not located. 5 of the 50 items, the 50 obsolete items, have some remaining value, including an ambulance that was in a serious accident and is no longer functional for the district. We received the insurance proceeds from that vehicle, so the net value is 0. The other 4 items fall into the beyond useful life category and total just over $12,000. There's also a 6th item with a stated value, a trailer valued at $9,335. That is a duplicate item on the list, so we're deleting it. So there's just the one. This is an action item for your consideration. Staff's recommendation is to approve the resolution to retire the 55 items from the district's capital asset inventory.
Do you have any questions about this item? And if not, I'll take a motion in a second.
Madam Chair, I so move.
Second.
We have a motion in a second. Can I get a roll call on the vote?
Director Orzali,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Sheets,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
and Sailors.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 2 under action items, the election to the California Special Districts Association, the CSDA Board of Directors, seat B.
Good evening, directors. Before you this evening, you have the opportunity to vote for one of the 3 candidates who is running for the CSDA Board of Directors, Sierra Network, seat B. This term will begin in 2023 and go through 2025. And as a district in member standing with CSDA, we have the opportunity to vote on this item, and we do so by doing it in a public meeting like this evening. And there were 3 candidates included in your packet. Hopefully you've had a chance to review those, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any recommendations? Go ahead, Director Jones.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for getting us all that information on this. I appreciate it. I'm sure that all of the candidates are well qualified, including the incumbent. Everyone has a lot of experience and knowledge with CSDA. And I would like to offer the recommendation to my board to support Elliot Mulberg. I have known him since 2004, working with LAFCO and Cal LAFCO and CSDA. He is with Sacramento County Special Districts, a special district, and he's served many roles as a special district representative. And absent any other discussion, I would like to recommend Elliot because of the longtime association I've had with him, as well as he is from Sacramento County.
I will second that, Madam Chair. That's a motion.
All right, is there anyone have a question or a comment about that? Sounds like that will be our nomination, and go ahead and call the roll for the vote.
Madam Chair, I move that we cast our vote for candidate Mulberg.
I'll second it.
We got a call, and we have it.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
I will begin with Director Orzali,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Sheets,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
and Sailors.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to the next action item number 3, ratification of the resolution to extend teleconference of board meetings, Government Code 54953E/3. This allows us to keep doing our board meetings as a hybrid of coming in person or continuing the Zoom option, which allows everyone to have the option to attend. And especially since we are still under the state of emergency because of COVID. Questions, comments? I'll take a motion in a second to continue this.
Madam Chair, I make a motion. We continue to have a hybrid model.
I have a motion. I'll take a second.
I'll be glad to second that.
Thank you. We have a motion in a second. Please call the roll, please.
Director Orzali,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Sheets,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
and Sailors.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The next item will be done in closed session and then brought out after closed session. Next up are the reports, the president's report. There is no report tonight. Fire chief's report, Chief Harms, what have you got for us tonight?
Good evening, directors. Thank you for being here tonight and you that are online. Kind of a quick report tonight. Just a couple of things on recruitment. We have a master mechanics recruitment for 2 positions that are internal. And we have a community relations specialist, external or internal position that is open. As far as meetings and activity, we continue to have the chiefs meetings or the chiefs forums across the district. We have 2 more to do next week and we will wrap those up. Those have been very positive and have been a lot of discussion across the board. We had the Sacramento County Fire Chiefs meeting in person the other day. The other one is the APOD committee. If you remember, that's the ambulance patient offloading time or wall time. Over the last 6 months, we have met twice a month. We have 20 plus recommendations. Next Wednesday at 8 a.m., there will be 16 folks that will have votes that will cast votes on what things will move forward. A lot of it is either legislation, policy, or procedure to be implemented statewide with the overall goal of reducing wall time. So that is exciting. It will be very interesting to see how the vote goes next Wednesday. Myself and Chief Mitchell met last week with CAL FIRE just to work on our relationship. I also had meetings with Dave O'Toole and myself and Ty Bailey and discussing the IGT, GEMT, and now the new program, which will be PPGEMT. As you know, that has been a steady funding source since about 2012. It has always been one that is a risk for us as it could go away. With the new PPGEMT program, it will be a public safety program for the future and provide stability to the GEMT program. So that was a very positive meeting there. We continue on with our monthly EAP peer support team meetings. And as you all know, we continue with our budget request for the Zinfandel Training Center. And hopefully by the end of the month, we will have some positive news on that. The last thing just to talk about is the upcoming fire camp. Over the last few years, we have canceled fire camp due to COVID. We decided to go ahead and move forward. It'll be held this year from July 12th through the 15th at Station 21. It's a 4-day camp, instills self-confident teamwork, teaches life skills, and gives kids a basic understanding of the firefighter profession. We are very excited to be able to get that back online. The very first one was held in 1997, and approximately 1,500 kids have attended it since 1997. So a lot of volunteers, a lot of time, but just a great program moving forward. That ends my report unless we have some questions.
I just have a quick question.
Go
Just a
ahead.
follow-up one. Thank you. The county chiefs,
Mhm.
16 votes, where, to whom will that recommendation or that vote or that push be given? To a legislator, to a hospital, to whom?
So the county chiefs was one meeting.
Uh-huh.
For the APOT committee, it is 16 representatives across the state. So it's everybody from the hospital administrators to hospital ER doctors, the fire service, the metro chiefs, that group. When the votes are done, they will go to the director of IMSA, who will then take it to the legislature. And so
Okay.
there is a number of, I would say, spot bills that are out there that
Okay.
have been put into place that if it has a legislative enactment, it would go down that path that way.
Thank you.
Other ones would be in August 1st, the state will start a strategic plan for the EMS, which is what's called the Chapter 13 rules, and which will be reviewed and updated. Some of those would go into the Chapter 13 rules to be able to move forward. But the biggest part, so like one of them is an offload within 20 minutes. That would be a legislative action to make a rule that would then have enforcement capabilities.
Thank you. Appreciate that distinction.
Thank you. Up next, we have the operations report, Chief Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair, directors. Operations report tonight. We have, since the last report, we've had 4,329 incidents. It's up slightly since our last report, bumping up against that 310 calls a day. So we are seeing an increase in call volume there. Excuse me, 63% of those incidents have been EMS related. And then we've had 220 fire incidents, which is also up since our last report, almost two additional fire calls per day since June 9th. So we're seeing that increase that we would typically see in the summer. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. As far as the safer positions update and what we're doing with our service delivery team, with that short timeline of implementation during that first part of August, our fire academy is graduating those 21 folks the 1st of July. They'll go through their orientation 10 shift and be counted as staffing in August. So our goal is to get that plan in operations in place in the first part of August. Labor and management are continuing to meet. In fact, there was a meeting today to discuss what we're going to do. We're working together, moving forward with that operational plan for implementing those changes. It's pretty exciting. We're looking at the impacts in the group. I know Director Gildone's here is one of the chairs along with Chief Rudnicki. They're looking at the impacts to logistics, station locations, vehicles, what kind of calls the squad's going to go on, call types, how those positions will be filled and bid for, among many other things. There's a lot of dynamics that are going on, and that group is doing some phenomenal work to get us ready to go for that. And we're looking forward to seeing how those changes become into the system and what impacts they have, so we can really look at is this deployment of those additional resources helpful for us moving forward and impacting our service delivery in a positive way. A couple of incidents of note. There was a fire on June 9th that Engine 68 responded to off of Douglas to a salvage yard that involved a Tesla vehicle that was a battery powered fire. You probably saw some of the coverage or maybe not. I'll tell you a little bit about it just to make sure everybody's on the same page. It was involved, this occurred June 9th. It was involved in an accident almost a month prior in early May. The vehicle was sitting out in that salvage yard for a number of weeks. Our crews arrived to find a well-involved fire in that vehicle. They did a great job. The notable piece here is it's a battery chemical reaction that's happening. They did a great job by bringing in additional resources, having some of our hazmat expertise respond, and identifying the tactics to be able to extinguish that fire and really stop that chemical thermal reaction from occurring. What they did was they tilted the vehicle up on its side, were able to cool the battery compartment itself, which was continuing to ignite after they did the initial extinguishment, and then eventually was able to work with the facility itself that had heavy equipment to build a berm and then put the vehicle in there. They removed the tires so it would sit as low as possible to build that berm up, put the vehicle in there, and then fill it with water to make sure that chemical chain reaction would stop. So they employed that tactic by utilizing some of those resources. The fire did eventually go out, which is good news. And then they continued to monitor it throughout the day with the thermal imaging camera by doing revisits. So like I said, it did catch a little bit of coverage because it's not something we see every day, and they did a great job, and it went up to the national level of people. And really the outcome from that, because of our members' actions, were some really valuable training nationwide and probably internationally because of those EVs that are out there. Something we'll probably expect to see more of in the future. And then the second item here, as far as incidents over the last few days, if you've been watching the news or social media and things, you've probably seen we've had multiple incidents, vegetation fire incidents revolving around some transient camps and things like that have really challenged our folks. And not just challenged them because of where they're at. There has been some access issues, but really because of the fire behavior we're seeing. Where it's been hot, you all know it's been dry. We haven't seen the winds that we would typically expect to see large and rapid fire growth, but we are seeing a lot of spotting activity. So that fire behavior is a little bit different than what we would see typically during this late part of June. It's more later in the summer to fall. So our folks continue to do a good job. They did some very challenging perimeter control activities, got in front of it. We had a large resource allocation to a number of different incidents, and I'm happy to report that we were able to extinguish them. Again, those mop-up operations are ongoing. A lot of dead fuels, the oak trees and things that have been burning for a while. So they've been challenged the last few days, but I will say that they've been really working hard and have done a phenomenal job. We just had one earlier today, again, up in the Rio Linda Battalion 5 area. So again, it's probably looking like another challenging fire season for us here. So, and unless there's any questions, that's the end of my report tonight.
Chief, you're talking about the electric vehicle, and I'm not aware of that. We have extensive training towards that kind of incident. As you said, there are a lot of electric vehicles out there, and this is going to happen time and again. So yep. Do we have any? We have, there is online training we've done before, but our relationship, we've actually got a very good relationship with that company, with Tesla. We've been able to work with them extensively on doing some solar tile training that they've provided us with, and looking at how we're going to implement that into the county. And so because of this incident and the discussion, which is obviously the greatest impact at the dinner table and when they're out doing drills, talking about it, visiting those target hazards, but we are looking for extending that training, fortunately. And this is why we have these folks. One of our hazmat captains that's on staff was contacted early on and was able to pull some of those resources to be able to implement those tactics. But we are looking obviously at many additional training opportunities in the future, because you're right. There's going to be a lot more of them out there.
Absolutely.
Future. Yeah. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So, Chief, that technique that you employed with that Tesla, was that a field expedient technique, or was that something that was known in the industry?
It is known in the industry as far as how you need to extinguish those fires, because if you just keep putting water on it, it's like those birthday candles that never go out. Yeah. Just keep lighting back up. So that's where I was mentioning the hazmat captain and actually Battalion 14 that day. Chief House was one of our hazmat folks, and they really went on and found out from the NTSB that has a number of resources online to be able to figure out, okay, here, we'll start with this, and it's still getting hot. They did put it out with it on its side, and then they kept thermal imaging camera with the temperatures would increase. So they went to the next thing, which was submerging that battery cell around the one that was burning to be able to keep those cool long enough for the actual chemical reaction to go out.
So just to follow on, I'm fascinated by this.
Me too. Lithium ion batteries.
That berm that they built up, what equipment was necessary to do that?
I believe they used some graders, so it was an asphalt area that was remote on their location that existed. They had some heavy like front end loaders out there
Oh,
to
I
be
see.
able to put. And
Okay.
so they're working with their folks there and said, hey, this is what we'd like to do. And they said, absolutely. We have some asphalt base available. They packed it and built that berm up and then filled it up. And the other piece of that, which is good, they have a number of other EVs sitting in their yard. They said, we're going to leave this berm here just in case we need it down the road. So they've pre-planned, if you will, a little bit to help us out
Yeah.
if and when that occurs again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great working relationship to get that done.
If I may, the location was also maybe convenient to handle it that way. Would there be situations where you won't have that?
Great point.
Yeah.
They had that available. And so we're talking to your point of how do we deal with it if it's, and there's some techniques out there about, you're on the freeway.
Right,
Or
or-
something like that. So
Yeah.
those are some of the things we're looking at.
Grass,
They're gonna
grassy
happen.
area, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Member, Chief Mitchell, I'd just like to follow up offline on this, just for the old timey firefighter curiosity
Yeah.
about firefighting on this new
You bet.
challenge we have. Thank you.
Absolutely. No problem. All right.
That's it.
Thank you,
Thank
Chief Mitchell. Moving along, the next thing that's up is the firefighters local 522 report. And BC Matt Cole is out of town, and so
BC Matt Cole is out of town, so he volunteered me to do some public speaking again.
perfect. You're getting
Mike
lots of
Bildone, Director
experience.
522, firefighter here at Station 106 on C shift. Good evening, board, Chief Harms, everybody in the room, everybody online. Thank you for having me. First and foremost, thank you again for the visits. I know since the last time I came, each of you received an invite for a meal. Most of you took us up on it. Some of you couldn't. We'll continue to do that. We enjoy having you. It's great for us. It's great for you. I think it's mutually beneficial for everybody. And we'll continue to do that. The next item, we had a unit meeting on the 17th at the hall. It was well attended in person and in Zoom. There was not a lot of new business taken care of there, but it's just good to get together. Our negotiations committee met today to continue that process to come forward to our meetings and be productive. I know that we have added an observer there, which we appreciate at the negotiations with the district. And our goal is to continue that process as effectively and purposefully as possible. So we've been meeting a lot, not only in the room with the district, but with ourselves, just to continue that process to try to move it along and not drag it out any more than it needs to be. The next item that we're going to talk about was the training center. It didn't make the budget for the year, but Matt has been in close contact with the legislature, and they've told him that there is another, what they're calling a junior budget that's going to be brought forward. And so hopefully by the 30th, we'll know whether or not that item is going to be put into the budget or not. But as of now, it wasn't put on the initial budget. The next thing I want to speak to is the service delivery team. I am fortunate to be one of the co-chairs with Chief Rudnicki on that group, and I initially presented that to you with Chief Rudnicki, and we got to speak a lot to what that team was going to do. After many, many hours and many meetings, I can't even count them, we have brought the SAFER recommendation to the district, which they adopted some of and chose to pivot on certain places. And my ask to administration was that if they were going to pivot, that they allow us to help in that transition. So as you know, Medic 5.9, 3 foreman engine companies, and the squad pilot program that we're talking about. With that, we have transitioned from recommending to helping Operations Chief Mitchell deploy those resources and where they're going to go and how we're going to put them in, and stations that need to be modified, if they need to be modified, extra beds, those types of things. And so today we met again for a couple of hours discussing those items. I want to say a huge thank you to our team that comes to those meetings consistently. It's been, because of the short timeline, we're meeting at least every other week. Myself, Chief Mitchell, and Chief Rudnicki meet every other week on top of that. And so there has been a ton of voluntary man hours that have been put into that. It's incredible to me that someone like Chief Law, who is on the doorstep of leaving this place, is so incredibly passionate about this place that she still continues to put her heart and soul into that. I will say that it's too bad that we're even considering losing her, because her contribution to the team is invaluable. I mean, there are things that she knows that we don't know, and that's the whole point of the team, is to bring people like her forward to fill in the gaps for somebody like me who doesn't do details. I'm a very big picture kind of guy. So to Chief Law, we thank her and everybody else. I got pretty passionate the first time you guys asked me to speak on the service delivery team. I don't love public speaking, and I'm really nervous when I do it. But somebody asked me about what does different look like here. And I brought forward, that was a moment I could kind of get excited and talk about the single role program and talk about how we've always kind of seemed to have a half foot forward with that. And through negotiations and through this team, we've been able to start to really address that program. And I'm really excited for what that potentially could look like, what we could build as Metro EMS potentially. There's so many there's so much good potential there for not only us internally, but for the public to receive much better service on the streets from the members that are working here and potentially the members that are out there waiting to come work for us. It's really an exciting time to look into how we can change and bring a better foot forward. Matt always talks about how do we do better? And I know that can be offensive to some people because some people would say, well, we do really well, and we do really, really good work. We're very professional. We roll out, we treat the public appropriately. But if we're being honest with ourselves, if everybody's being honest with themselves, they can always do better. You can always do better at what you do. You can always spend a better moment in the day figuring out a way to be better. And so better takes humility and better takes vision. And that is something that I'm excited that on our end, we're really working on staying humble and having some vision on the future, because that's what we need. And the last thing is Matt asked me to read you guys a note. So I'll read it straight off the phone. He says, I am sorry I'm not in the room, but I am on Zoom tonight. I want you all to know that Barbie is a strong and valued leader at Metro Fire. Over the years, she has inspired me personally and countless others. Tonight, Barbie once again showed her character, passion, and commitment to do incredibly difficult things on behalf of this organization. It is tragic that Barbie is potentially ending her career on this note, and I hope that the board does not take the gravity of her words tonight lightly. Unless you have any comments or questions, I'll leave you with that.
Anyone have any questions or comments?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda tonight is committee and delegate reports. The executive committee has not met and has no plans to meet. Up next, Communication Center JPA, DC Wagaman. I guess it's
Madam Chair, Chief Wagaman took a well-deserved vacation during the last, so I got to sit in there for him.
perfect.
From the last meeting that occurred here in this room last week, the first part I'd like to point out was there was a number of award presentations and things that we were able to do as a board to the members of the center. It included a letter of commendation from SFD to the staff that was on duty during the night of their shooting that they had in downtown, and this professionalism and integrity and everything that they did to assist in managing that incident. So they were well-deserved recognition there. There was also some awards of excellence, some challenge coin presentation, a certificate of appreciation to one of the members over there for his ability to solve a problem in a large incident for communications. And then also they recognized the dispatcher and supervisors of the year last year. So that was a fun to be at one and sit as the alternate. That was a good one to be at. So it was good to see all those positives and the accolades. A couple other notable items. There was a preliminary budget that was approved at that meeting for the center. Good news there. Staff brought forward the prelim budget, and I'm happy to report there's no current member agency increases from last year to this year for our contributions to the center. So that was good. We also discussed the medical director changes as we grow closer to moving away from the regional medical director concept and what that's going to look like for the center moving forward. And then we got an update on the CAD build, which is still moving with our vendor at Paraton and trying to figure out some of those things as that continues to grow. It's been a long-term project, and I know Chief Wagaman's been involved in that for a long time, as well as many others. So thank you to those folks for being involved. And then finally, the next meeting is here in this room on July 12th, and that ends my report, unless there's any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much for that report. Up next, we have California Fire Rescue Training, JPA, Chief Arms.
Directors, we had our final meeting of the JPA here on yesterday. All of the equipment and supplies have been divided up between the city fire and Metro Fire. A number of resolutions were done to be able to close out the JPA. At the final portions of it, OES will be the holder of records in the future. $5,000 was identified as the cost to be able to transfer those records and manage for the first year. And at the end of it, there will be approximately $31,000 that will be divided between OES at 40%, the city at 30%, and Metro at 30%. End of report, unless you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you for that report. Next up is the Finance and Audit Committee, Director Rosali.
Finance and Audit Committee has not met. The next meeting will be July 28th at 5:30 p.m. in this chamber.
We met.
Excuse me. You're right. We met tonight. So the committee met on this evening on June 23rd. Their next meeting will be July 28th.
Thank you for that report. Next up is the Policy Committee. Director Gold is not here. I'm just going to, we have no report for him.
There's no report for the policy committee and we do not have a meeting scheduled.
Okay, so it is to be determined then. All right, we have board member questions and comments. Start with Director Jones.
Thank you, Madam President. So what year is this? 2022?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd just like to reiterate some previous comments. I have started working with Chief Barbie Law back in 1990. Private ambulance and Engine 1 City. So I have been a witness to her contributions to emergency services delivery. And I want to once again take a moment to say thank you for your service. And again, this is it's not set in stone yet. The cement hasn't hardened. So that's my comment for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Kelly.
I have no comments this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Sheets.
And no comment.
No comments. Thank you. Director Wood.
I have no comments.
No comment. Thank you. Director Rosali.
I have no further comments.
No comments. Thank you. Director Gould is not here tonight. Director White.
I just want to thank the men and women of the department that are routinely running calls every day. 7 months ago, they transported my father-in-law after he had a fall. And I'm happy to say that he is home today and celebrating his 90th birthday, and largely due to the great care that he received by the crew at Engine 59 and Medic 59. So thank you.
Thank you, Director White. Director Clark.
Madam Chair, I have no questions or comments tonight.
Thank you, Director Clark. Tonight, I would just like to also say that I have known Chief Law since the late 1980s, and when she started working on a private ambulance company. And when we made the decision in the early 1990s to go into the fire ambulance business, and the city decided to allow all of the people on ambulances to come take the test to get on to see if they could qualify for. I remember Barbie going through our physical agility test. But here she is. Here we are in 2022, like Gay said. I'm very sorry, Barbie, that it has come to what it has come to. I understand how you feel and why you made the decision you did. And that's the end of my comments for tonight. We now will go into closed session.
Recording stopped.